Most people think World War III will begin with explosions, armies, and official declarations on television screens. But what if it already started? Quietly. Through cyber attacks, economic warfare, artificial intelligence, media manipulation, and invisible battles shaping the future of nations. Every single day. The modern battlefield no longer exists only on land or sea. It now exists inside technology, information, economies, and even the human mind itself. Many people imagine World War III as a dramatic moment that begins with official declarations, massive troop movements, and headlines announcing the start of a global conflict. They imagine a single day when the world suddenly realizes war has arrived. But history rarely works that way anymore. The nature of global conflict has changed. Modern warfare is no longer confined to trenches, borders, or traditional battlefields. It moves through economies, technology, information systems, cyber attacks, supply chains, financial pressure, artificial intelligence, media narratives, and psychological influence. That is why one of the most unsettling ideas of the modern age is this. The world may already be experiencing the early stages of a global conflict without fully recognizing it. The greatest wars in history were not only fought with weapons, they were fought through systems, through alliances, through economics, through control of resources, information, energy, transportation, and public opinion. And today, the battlefield has expanded into every part of modern civilization. When global powers compete over technology, that is conflict. When nations weaponize trade, that is conflict. When cyber attacks target infrastructure, banking systems, or communication networks, that is conflict. When misinformation spreads strategically to destabilize societies, that is conflict. The modern world has entered an era where war is often invisible until its consequences become impossible to ignore. And perhaps the most dangerous aspect of this kind of conflict is that ordinary people continue living normal lives while massive geopolitical shifts happen quietly beneath the surface. People scroll through phones, go to work, watch entertainment, and focus on daily routines, often unaware that the global balance of power is changing rapidly around them. History teaches that societies are usually slow to recognize transformation while it is happening. People understand major historical eras clearly only in hindsight. During the early stages, everything feels confusing, fragmented, and uncertain. That is exactly what makes the present moment so psychologically difficult. Many people sense instability growing, but they struggle to define it clearly. Economic tension increases, military alliances shift, cyber warfare expands, supply chains become fragile, information becomes weaponized, artificial intelligence changes strategic competition, political polarization weakens societies internally. These are not isolated events. They are interconnected pressures shaping a new global era. And unlike previous world wars, modern conflict does not necessarily require continuous, large-scale battlefield combat between superpowers. In fact, direct war between nuclear nations is so dangerous that competition increasingly happens indirectly, through proxy conflicts, economic pressure, cyber operations, technological rivalry, and influence campaigns. That means the front lines are no longer far away from ordinary citizens. The front lines now include communication systems, energy prices, social media platforms, financial markets, digital infrastructure, and public trust itself. This changes how societies experience conflict psychologically. In older wars, danger was visible. People could identify the battlefield clearly. But modern global tension often feels abstract, invisible, and constant. Anxiety spreads not only through physical violence, but through uncertainty. And uncertainty is one of the most powerful forces shaping human behavior. People become emotionally exhausted when they feel instability, but cannot fully understand where it is coming from. They sense rising tension in politics, economics, culture, and technology all at once. The result is a kind of collective psychological pressure affecting entire populations. This is why resilience has become one of the most important human qualities of the modern age. The future will not belong only to the strongest military powers. It will belong to societies and individuals capable of adapting intelligently to rapid change. Emotional discipline, critical thinking, technological literacy, and psychological resilience are becoming survival skills. Because in a world shaped by information warfare, attention itself becomes a battlefield. Human beings are constantly being influenced, distracted, manipulated, and emotionally triggered by systems designed to shape perception. Fear spreads faster than facts. Outrage becomes profitable. Division weakens societies from within. And the more emotionally reactive populations become, the easier they are to destabilize. That is why calm thinking is becoming revolutionary. A society unable to think clearly under pressure becomes vulnerable regardless of military strength. Panic damages systems. Emotional extremism destroys trust. Internal division weakens national resilience more effectively than external attacks alone. History repeatedly shows that civilizations often decline internally before they collapse externally. And perhaps this is one of the deepest lessons of the modern era. Global conflict is no longer only about destroying cities. It is also about influencing minds, weakening institutions, disrupting economies, and shaping narratives. Technology has accelerated this transformation dramatically. Artificial intelligence, surveillance systems, drones, cyber capabilities, and algorithm-driven media ecosystems are changing the structure of power itself. The countries and organizations capable of controlling data, information flow, and technological innovation may shape the future more than traditional military strength alone. But technological advancement also creates fragility. Modern societies depend heavily on interconnected systems. Electricity grids, internet infrastructure, transportation networks, banking systems, satellites, and supply chains all operate together. That interconnectedness creates efficiency, but it also creates vulnerability. A disruption in one area can create cascading effects across entire nations. This is why modern global tension feels different from older forms of conflict. It is decentralized, psychological, economic, digital, and constant. And yet, despite all this uncertainty, there is also an important opportunity hidden inside the crisis. Periods of instability force human beings to reevaluate what truly matters. They expose weaknesses that were previously ignored. They challenge societies to become more disciplined, innovative, and resilient. Pressure often reveals both the flaws and the hidden strengths of civilizations. The same applies to individuals. Most people discover their true emotional strength only during uncertain times. Comfort rarely develops deep resilience. Difficulty does. Uncertainty forces adaptation. Crisis forces clarity. Human beings often become more thoughtful, aware, and capable after confronting instability directly. That does not mean fear should dominate life. Fear clouds judgment. What matters is awareness combined with discipline. The modern world requires individuals who can remain mentally steady while surrounded by uncertainty. People who can think critically instead of reacting emotionally. People who understand complexity instead of reducing everything into simplistic slogans. People who value long-term stability over short-term outrage. Because the greatest danger during periods of global tension is not only external conflict, it is internal collapse. The breakdown of trust, wisdom, unity, and emotional stability inside societies themselves. And in many ways, that may be the defining challenge of this era. Not simply surviving technological and geopolitical competition, but preserving human clarity, resilience, and social cohesion while living through one of the most complex periods of transformation in modern history. The idea of world war has changed dramatically in the modern age. Many people still imagine global conflict the way it existed in the 20th century. Massive armies crossing borders, explosions filling the sky, official declarations of war, and nations openly fighting on traditional battlefields. But modern power operates differently now. The battlefield is no longer limited to land, sea, or air. It has expanded into digital networks, financial systems, artificial intelligence, global trade, media influence, and even human psychology itself. This is why many people fail to recognize how global conflict already surrounds them. They expect war to look obvious. But modern competition between powerful nations often unfolds quietly, invisibly, and continuously beneath everyday life. Technology has become one of the most powerful weapons in human history. Nations are no longer competing only for territory. They are competing for data, innovation, artificial intelligence dominance, semiconductor production, cyber capabilities, satellite systems, and control over information networks. The future of power may belong less to those with the largest armies and more to those controlling technological infrastructure. Think about how dependent modern civilization has become on digital systems. Banking, communication, transportation, healthcare, electricity, military operations, media, and even food distribution rely heavily on interconnected technology. That creates extraordinary convenience, but it also creates vulnerability. A successful cyber attack today can disrupt entire economies without firing a single bullet. And this changes the nature of warfare completely. In the past, wars destroyed physical infrastructure directly. Today, digital attacks can paralyze infrastructure remotely. A cyber operation targeting electrical grids, communication systems, or financial institutions can create chaos inside a country without traditional military invasion. The battlefield now exists inside computer systems, networks, and algorithms. At the same time, information itself has become weaponized. Modern societies are flooded constantly with news, social media content, emotional narratives, political messaging, and algorithm-driven information streams. The problem is not only misinformation, the deeper issue is psychological manipulation. When populations become emotionally reactive, divided, fearful, or unable to distinguish truth from propaganda, societies weaken internally. That weakness becomes strategic, because a divided society becomes easier to destabilize. A confused population becomes easier to influence. An emotionally exhausted public becomes easier to control. This is why psychological warfare has become one of the defining features of modern global tension. The goal is no longer only to destroy an enemy physically. The goal is often to weaken confidence, disrupt unity, create distrust, and manipulate perception. Human attention itself has become part of the battlefield. Social media platforms amplify outrage because outrage captures attention. Fear spreads faster than careful analysis. Emotional reactions overpower thoughtful discussion. Over time, entire populations can become trapped in cycles of anger, anxiety, distraction, and polarization. And this has geopolitical consequences. When societies lose internal trust, they become weaker externally. History repeatedly shows that civilizations often collapse internally before external forces overpower them. Political division, social fragmentation, institutional distrust, and emotional instability create vulnerabilities that hostile powers can exploit. Economic competition has also become a major form of conflict. Nations increasingly use trade restrictions, sanctions, currency pressure, resource control, and supply chain manipulation as strategic tools. Global economies are deeply interconnected, which means economic disruption in one region can quickly affect the entire world. Energy becomes political. Technology becomes political. Trade becomes political. Everything becomes interconnected with strategic competition. Artificial intelligence is accelerating this transformation even further. AI systems are reshaping military strategy, surveillance capabilities, cyber warfare, automation, financial markets, and information control. Countries understand that whoever leads in advanced AI technologies may gain enormous influence over the future global order. But AI also increases uncertainty. The speed of technological change is now faster than many political systems can adapt. Entire societies are struggling to understand the consequences of technologies evolving faster than public awareness itself. That creates instability because institutions designed for older eras are being pressured by entirely new forms of power. And unlike previous wars, this conflict often lacks clear beginnings or endings. There is no single declaration, no universally recognized battlefield, no obvious moment when the world officially says the war has started. Instead, pressure accumulates gradually through cyber attacks, proxy conflicts, economic coercion, technological rivalry, disinformation campaigns, intelligence operations, and strategic competition across multiple regions simultaneously. That ambiguity makes modern conflict psychologically exhausting. People sense instability, but struggle to define it clearly. They feel tension in economics, politics, media, and international relations all at once. Anxiety increases because uncertainty increases, and uncertainty affects entire societies emotionally. This is why modern conflict is not only geopolitical, it is psychological. Fear becomes contagious. Distrust becomes contagious. Polarization becomes contagious. And the most dangerous outcome is not necessarily military destruction alone. It is the erosion of social cohesion and rational thinking inside societies themselves. Because when people become emotionally manipulated constantly, they lose the ability to think critically under pressure. They react impulsively instead of strategically. Panic replaces wisdom. Outrage replaces thoughtful analysis. That creates fragility. Modern global competition, therefore, operates on multiple levels simultaneously: military, technological, economic, informational, and psychological. It is decentralized, continuous, and deeply integrated into daily life. And yet, there is also a powerful lesson hidden inside this reality. Human beings must develop new forms of resilience for the modern age. Strength today is not only physical, it is intellectual resilience, emotional discipline, adaptability, technological understanding, and the ability to remain calm while surrounded by constant uncertainty. Because the greatest challenge of this era may not simply be surviving external threats, it may be preserving clarity, wisdom, stability, and human unity in a world increasingly shaped by invisible forms of conflict operating every single day beneath the surface of ordinary life.